And Minister, you're welcome to the Chamber. I'd like to firstly commend Fianna Fáil colleagues for putting down this private member's business motion this evening, and I think it's very, very timely in advance of the budget. There's no doubt about it, the cost of living inflation are to the fore of everybody's minds as we approach budget day and as we approach the thoughts of a possible long winter. And the cost of energy, the cost of fuel is particularly of concern. We all hope we have a mild winter, and it would be excellent if that were to happen. But if we were to have a winter similar to what we had in 2009 and 2010, where I remember one morning, minus 17 in the car registered. If we were to have something like that where the wind didn't blow, then that is serious. That would be serious at any time, would be particularly serious where we have a finely balanced supply and demand in our energy system. And that is the concern, that is the worry, and that's something obviously, Minister, you can't prevent if the weather turns in that fashion. But it is of concern to me, and I know to households up and down the country. The budget is being brought forward because of the cost of living and inflationary pressures, and certainly I would hope and expect that government will sign off on a package of supports for households across the country in relation to energy costs, because it is absolutely vital that those people who are facing the higher energy bills will have support to make it bearable, to make it realistic that they'll be able to afford the bills that will be falling due. And I certainly know that the money that has been spent heretofore to support people in the cost of living have been welcome. And it's worth pointing out that those are possible because the economy has been in good order, because of the way it has been managed over a long number of years, that we have reached a surplus that we can reinvest and put into supporting people who are under financial pressures at the moment. In relation to, I suppose, the balance of supply and demand, obviously there's some medium to long-term plans, including the France-Ireland interconnector, which will be important in terms of providing that energy security, a linkage to another EU member state. Obviously we have linkage to the UK, which is important, hugely important, but nonetheless is that they're not part of the EU, and I think it's important that we have the solidarity with the EU that the Celtic interconnector will provide between Ireland and France when it gets up and running. In relation to fuel costs, I mean, gas will be the main concern, particularly in the East Coast. There are many parts of Ireland that don't have reliance on gas, and therefore they will be particularly dependent on home heating oil. Turf has been discussed, and I think if ever there was a year where it's important that people had turf and that we got a positive solution in relation to regulations in relation to smoky coal and turf cutting, this is the year. But certainly home heating oil still is hugely important in terms of a heat source for many rural dwellers up and down the country, and it's important that assistance will be provided for those that will have to pay high costs of home heating oil this year. We also know the electricity credit was well received, and I would hope something targeted like that again could be looked at. And again, I cannot preempt the budget, but I think it's important. In relation to longer term, again, the MARA bill has been passed, and MARA, the Marine Area Office, has to be established, and that's going through the various stages of that. But there is still some concern in relation to delivery of offshore and the speed which realistically that can be achieved. And you would have seen commentary in the UK from going back to Tony Blair's year. You might have seen video clips this week in relation to, he talked about rustling up a nuclear power station. And again, rustling up an offshore wind farm is not something that can be done in the space of a week or a month or a year. So we need to be acutely attuned to the issues here, the fine balance between supply and demand, and I certainly believe that we have these natural resources, but there is going to be a period of time, a gap whereby supply is still going to be constrained, but we can plan to ensure that we can achieve the great resource that offshore presents to us as well. I think it's also, and it has been mentioned by others previously in these houses, in relation to the Derry Brine wind farm, Minister, and again, look, there's legal issues and there's, but the ins and outs of this, but jeepers, it's hard to explain to anybody in the midst of a crisis why we would be dismantling a wind farm. And again, I'm not sure, again, it's a legal matter, but it just doesn't make sense, and it's hard to explain to people why that might be happening. Regarding the energy prices, I said, look, the reason and a lot of the problems we have at the moment relate to the cost of gas, and we know why that is, and that is the illegal actions by Putin and Russia, and we have to mitigate those. We cannot prevent them, we cannot change them. We're a buyer in those terms across Europe. I say that across Europe, whilst we ourselves wouldn't be directly from Russian gas, obviously will have an impact on the costs of sources in Scotland or Norway or elsewhere. So look, commend the motion and fully support it. Thank you.